Look how beautiful that is. Holy mackerel. Yeah, that makes you want to love harvest. Oh. Yowza. Pistou is the Niçoise dialect for pesto, because that part of France has been ruled back and forth, Italy, France, for hundreds of years. And so they have their own Niçoise dialect.
So we're doing a dinner here tonight with you guys also, and this is the second course.
So tonight we cleaned a chicken wing down, brought all the meat down, braised it in a pesto. We're going to put that as a garnish in the center of the soup tonight, just as a, you know, fancy it up a little bit. So we're not just serving soup. It's made with lots and lots of little late summer vegetables. We just want to sweat them a little bit. And normally you might at this point put some garlic in the soup, but since we're going to put pesto in it later, we don't want it to be too garlicky. This is all about the vegetables. It's just beautiful, almost a stew-like. You could make it with less chicken stock and make it more stew-like, or you can make it brothier and make it more soup-like. So we've already cooked the white beans and set them aside with a little bit of their broth. First we soak our beans overnight, then we cook them in water with bay leaf, fresh thyme, fresh oregano, a little bit of garlic. And some beans have trouble getting soft if you salt them too early in the process, so we typically cook the beans completely done, and then when we take them off the stove to rest in their own liquid, we season them at that point, and then they'll absorb, by osmosis, they absorb the salt. So the soup's come up to a boil, and the carrots are well on their way. We're going to drop in some potatoes and the pasta, because we want to give those a head start. A little bit of orzo pasta, or any kind of little miniature pasta, little miniature bow ties would be great. Throw in some green beans, because they're probably going to cook the same amount of time as potatoes. Now this thing is starting to fill up pretty well with vegetables. I always put the freshest vegetables in at the very last, so they stay vibrant green and yellow, whatever their color is, but they're fresh. I hate mushy zucchini. Add the beans. So our beans have been cooking, have cooked in the juice. We saved it along with some olive oil, and we'll put those beans in. So again, we'll bring that up to a boil. But now, as you can see, that's just full of vegetables. Now this is a nice, full, brothy, vegetable type soup. We're gonna make our pesto. You can use any kind of nuts. I like to use pistachios. I think work awesome with all of these vegetables. I just kind of slice these garlic cloves up just a little bit in advance. Not everybody likes to use a mortar and pestle, and frankly, it is a hassle, but it's really good. I use it for small things. If you tried to make this in a food processor, it's just not gonna fit. You're gonna lose most of it before you even get it out of there with a spoon or a spatula. And I'm really just gonna start smashing up the garlic a little bit. Add a little bit of salt. That helps get everything kind of grinding up together. Any kind of friction. I'll throw in some nuts, because there'll be more friction to get us going. And really, it's elbow grease after this. Teach your kids how to do this, they'll do dinner every night. See, now we have the oil, and now we're starting to get that typical pesto look, which is really typically pretty rustic. A lot of times when we put it in a blender, it turns into this green monster, which is awesome, but it's not as rustic looking. So I'm gonna throw some cheese in. And a lot of times if you do decide to make it in a machine, I'll fold the cheese in last, because a lot of times the cheese gets so worked up in your food processor that it might overheat it. Our soup is ready to go. Because vegetables, you know, when they're cooked, they're sweet, and with the pesto, there's some richness and creaminess to that. And typically, maybe it's harder to marry a soup with that style of wine, but we figured this one works. You know, it's just rich but light and fresh and vegetable-y. And yeah, yeah. That's one of the reasons I love this soup. It kind of finishes up summer and fall with the squash and tomatoes still. It's light and brothy, and yet it's rich and hearty in a way that some winter soups aren't.
That's nice.
It's an excellent pairing, actually.
Is that a good, yeah.
Yeah, you really get the sharp, dry Parmesan and the nuttiness with the chard.
It's got hints of all the things that go into that real heavy-duty kind of buttery chard, but it stops. Great acid.
We use all these small cluster clones coming out of Carneros, so real high in acids, and so you can do some malolactic with it, but you still end up with lots of
it doesn't go over the top.
Yeah, lots of acid, and that's what you need in wines to make them go well with foods.
Yeah. The aroma is incredible. I always adjust a little more salt, because I love salt. Salt brings all your flavors out. Lots of times when you're looking around the kitchen for something because you're missing something in your dish or missing some kind of flavor, it's usually salt. Pesto is typically going to be with something that's already kind of light, and you're giving the flavor profile to really punch it up. And I like pistachios with any kind of fish. I think almonds can go with meat, like a pork, pepita seeds. If you're heading towards a little bit more south of the border, The fact that you're going to use a pesto as a garnish or a flavor in something, you're typically serving something lighter because that's going to be a flavor base or a flavor profile that's pretty hearty on the dish.